I'm Rich Heldobler, Provost here at Northeastern. It's a great day for Northeastern. First of all, thank you all for your attendance today. I want to start off by thanking Dr. Conrad Worrell for opening up this door to us. But a special thank you goes to Megan Mitchell, who picked up the ball and ran with it, leading to this event today. And of course, thanks to our students, faculty, and staff who are always ready to support Northeastern and events like this that demonstrate our mission to serve a diverse population of students. It's a great opportunity for us to send a collective message to Springfield about the importance of public higher education, especially for the students that we serve at Northeastern. We are proud of the students that we serve at Northeastern, first-generation students. We have the most diverse university student body in the Midwest, and Northeastern continues to be recognized nationally for the low student debt of its graduates. That is why it is mission critical for us to make the state understand that they must provide an appropriation that funds a quality and an affordable public higher education. By providing an adequate appropriation and MAP funding is critical to our future and speaks to the core of who we are at Northeastern. Our graduates move more first-generation and diverse populations into leadership positions whose faces have been absent from the leadership table for far too long by providing a quality education that empowers leadership. I have one small request. Start talking to your legislative representatives. And when you finish talking to them, end every sentence with 3 of the most powerful words in America. And I vote. If you are not registered to vote, we have a voter registration table going on in the Village Square. We also have a letter writing campaign about MAP funding. So as you sign your letters, make sure you write "and I vote." I would like to conclude by sending a message to Springfield as only Northeastern can. So let's send a collective message on the count of 3. I want us to say, "Fund our future and we vote." Ready? 1, 2, 3. Fund our future and we vote. Thank you, Northeastern.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Martinez, and I am currently a member of Omega Delta and the student government president here at Northeastern Illinois University. The state of Illinois is in a crisis, and students' dreams have been put on ransom. NEIU knows this firsthand. Many of its students suffer because they are not getting MAP grant. Thank God we have President Haas who gave us MAP grant this year. Here at NEIU, I know firsthand many students who suffer solely from not getting funded from MAP grant or Pell. Here today to speak about these important issues is someone who has led the charge for many civil rights movements, who has worked with Dr. Luther King Jr., and who has, in the Clinton administration, been honored with the highest civilian honor of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. On behalf of the entire student body at Northeastern Illinois University, I would like to give Jesse Jackson a warm welcome.
Wow. Say I am. Say I am somebody. I am somebody. Fund education. Now. Healthcare. Now. Clean the environment. Now. Stop the violence. Now. Keep hope alive. Northeastern. Number 1. Let me hear you scream. let me express my sincere thanks to you for your presence today and for making this invitation possible. I want to thank my friend and brother beloved, with whom I've worked so closely across the years, who was such a mainstay in Harold Washington's election. Dr. Conrad World, please stand. And Sister Megan, who's an instant mobilized. Megan, please stand. Give her a hand. Every generation must face the challenges of its time. There are several things worse than oppression or slavery. One is to adjust to it. Secondly, it's about me. And thirdly, not about us. One thing worse than oppression is to adjust to it and then rationalize it's not so bad after all, and I'm surviving. We must get bigger than ourselves to transform our society. Often we are organized more by pain than we are by vision. We meet today in some real sense because your university future is in jeopardy. Whether you are faculty, or custodian, or student, or administrator, we face an arrangement that threatens our future and our life options. Those who are not registered to vote have nothing to say. In this tug of war, you've given up the right to hold on to the rope. Only those who are registered can hold on to the rope. We can't get so caught up until we run past levels of power. One power is marching feet. One power is economic leverage. One power is voting. One power is coalition and direct action. In a real sense, Chicago State, Northeastern, Governor State may very well face a cutback on your graduation this May and June. And those making those decisions they've already graduated. But there's a common line here, and it's not just us. Let me take a step back. I just left Flint, Michigan. The people are still being demanded to pay water bill for poison water. If they don't pay the water bill for poison water, then they lose their house note. What's the commonality really between what's happening in Illinois and Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana? There's a toxic wind blowing, a kind of backlash to 50 years of progress. It seemed yesterday, but I was arrested along with 7 classmates trying to use a public library. The day Dr. King gave the speech in Washington, we listened to the alliterative poetic climax, I Have a Dream. But the context of that dream, which was not just his imagination, was that day from Texas across to Florida, the Maryland, people of color, black and brown, could not use a single public toilet. The context of that speech, black and brown service people had to sit behind Nazi POWs on American military bases. The context of that speech was that we had fought for freedoms and democracies in Europe came back home and did not have them for ourselves. The context of that speech was our money was counterfeited. We could not buy ice cream at Howard Johnson's. Could not rent a room at Holiday Inn. We lived in the rigid apartheid. We came in a multiracial, multicultural coalition of the locked out and the concerned. We must change the course of our country. I dream of a day we'll be beyond this predicament. It was earned through sweat, sacrifice, and martyrdom. Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. Public Accommodation Bill 1964, a 9-year struggle. It was not an instant wave your hand struggle, 9 years of struggle. When that law was passed, for the first time in 95 years, our citizenship had been affirmed. Right to vote in 1965. It's portrayed that the narrative is blacks got the right to vote because we've been denied the right to vote since 1880. After 246 years of slavery, we've been denied. Blacks couldn't vote, but white women couldn't serve on juries. Sexism is why Frederick Douglass got involved in the struggle for equal rights for women back in the last century. 18-year-olds who serving in Vietnam could not vote. They got the right to vote in 1970. You couldn't vote on college campuses. The fear was that you would vote your power, that you were active, that you had come alive, that you would fight back. There would be 10,000 votes at Northeastern on this campus. It would be as basic as drinking water or breathing, that you would register for class and register to vote. It was unimaginable. You who face student loan debt greater than credit card debt would not be registered to vote. And someone would have to beg you, please register, please vote. We should be fighting today for automatic registration at age 18. We should be fighting today for on-site same-day registration. Today we should have pictures on the ballot so you know who you're voting for. That's advanced, way beyond. We're behind the 8 ball. Blacks couldn't vote in 1965. White women couldn't serve on juries. 18-year-olds couldn't vote. We couldn't vote on campus. We couldn't vote bilingually to 1970. I ran for president in 1984. And when I ran, I noticed we had far more popular votes than delegates. Something called winner take all, schemes to undermine the power of the vote. Because we got the right to vote in 1965. It was 1990, 25 years later before it began to have real power. We had the vote that was chopped up. Some call winner take all. If I get 48% of the vote, my competitor get 50.1, they get all the votes, winner take all. On that theory, we put on 2 million new voters, but didn't have before in the delegates. We changed it to equal fund, equal representation. Result of that, in 1988, we had 1,200 delegates, proportionality. That was seen as academic at that time. In 2008, when President Barack ran against Hillary Clinton, she won California, Ohio, and Pennsylvania and Texas. Under 84 rules, she would have been the winner. Under the 88 rules, he became the winner because he kept gaining delegates even though he lost the state. He didn't lose his share. The struggle is not a one-round, one-lick fight. If you come and register for class in September and don't show back up until December, don't expect a grade. If you vote now, see at the next election, don't expect change. It's the stuff in between elections. It's the ongoingness. There is today, I'm so glad you're here, a toxic wind blowing. And you are the key to the change that we seek. Whenever young America comes alive, we change the politics. The politics don't change us when we come alive. Let's not forget when school segregation was legal and rigid, there was a young girl and her dad who went to school. Brown was the test case, Mary Brown. Young America coming alive. Rosa Parks didn't just sit down because her feet was tired. That's a sick old narrative. She was a freedom fighter, an organizer. Worked all up and down the Black Belt of Alabama. She didn't turn to Fred Gray, said, let's test the 54 decision. She meant to go to jail. She wasn't tired of segregation, tired of being marginalized. And she was arrested. Somebody had to quit. Well, what we should do, maybe we should let them apologize to her. Dr. King said, no. There's a bigger fight than a podiatrist. It's a bigger fight than give her a spot, give her a resting place. There's a sign above the driver's head that reads colored seat from the rear, whites from the front, and those who violate will be punished by law. Till that sign comes down, we'll boycott, we'll march, we'll fight back. We live in our faith, we live under the law. We have to fight for just law. It took 9 years to get that law. 10 years to get the right to vote after 95 years of denial. This struggle to make America better is an enduring, daily struggle. There's a toxic wind blowing. Anti-immigration. What a contradiction. A nation made up of those who came against their will as slaves. A nation that sought immigrants for its development. Now create a bar higher than the one they used to get in. Toxic wind blowing. And the following behind that madness. Anti-refugee. With the church on Sunday, the worship a refugee. Jesus was a refugee. Born under a death warrant, on an act of genocide called by Herod of his own race, of his own religion, slick politician. Had to go to Egypt as a refugee. How can you worship a refugee on Sunday and lock them out on Monday? Doesn't stand the reason. There's a toxic wind blowing. Denying workers the right to organize. What's so crippling about Michigan? Those who could not stop us from voting usurped it with something called the emergency manager. Just take a democracy and assign a czar to represent the represented. Not all for and by the people, but a czar called who could then sell a $600 million dome in Pontiac for $500,000 and then go to work for that company, czar. It just happened to be that you have emergency managers in Flint and Pontiac and Benton Harbor, and Saginaw and Detroit, majority of black cities just happen to be. Just take away the vote. Pass right to work laws. One issue in Flint is not just water. We want to help Flint send some water bottles. They need water pipes, not just water bottles. What happened? Well, one thing is they went from 80,000 auto worker jobs to 10,000. Tax base dropped. School base dropped. Housing market dropped. Then Snyder started to privatize the water. Water of use for 50 years coming out of Detroit. It was so corrosive until GM stopped using the water. It was corroding the engines of cars. So GM pulled back 14 months ago. Those were signs. It took Rachel Maddow to break the story, really. Dr. Hannah, a lady named Melissa, they broke the story. Then they began reverse course after Cover Up in the Big Lie. Cover Up in the Big Lie. We're going to redirect it back to the Detroit source, but without insulation for the pipes, you're now sending clean water through dirty pipes equals dirty water. Well, the president calls it a state of emergency. No, it's a disaster zone. What's the difference? If it's emergency, that means that it's man-made. So you get $5 million for help. If it's a disaster zone, you get $95 million because it's natural. Well, why was Katrina a disaster zone? It was an emergency that created a disaster because they would not invest in the infrastructure of the levees. So the federal government gives a pittance of $5 million, enough to buy some more bottled water, which we have to bathe in and cook in. A toxic wind is blowing. What you gonna do about it? Do you adjust? You become cynical and analyze and walk away? Do you fight back? Do you resist? What's the stuff that brings us together? The house is on fire, no matter what your disposition may be. Everybody go for cover, not because you were so bright, because the fire was so hot. Sometimes it takes the fire to organize us. And maybe the threat to education is why we're here today. Laid off 1,100 Lutheran service workers today. People can't get HIV medicine. Not enough. People cannot get their victims' compensation money. It's not enough. Laying off everybody except police. You can't police poverty and corruption. You must end it. Don't police it, end it. Behind the right to work law schemes, behind emergency manager schemes, behind banks using subprime lending to take away people's homes and you stop public housing and you foreclose private housing, all that matters. Then comes, let's police it. We need to end it. They bring the town Attorney General to check out how is it being policed. Do you ever hear of the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development? Department of Education coming to town? Labor for job training coming to town? Department of Commerce coming to town? Small Business Administration coming to town? Fully funding the MAP grants coming to town? Fully funding Pell grants coming to town? Well, in case I'm not getting over the years, y'all looking kind of quiet to me here. How many of you have a relative in jail? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. By the way, they don't have a budget crisis, by the way. They're not threatened with budget crisis by much. Those in jail are warm in the wintertime, cool in the summertime, organized recreation, adult supervision. How many of you know somebody has faced home foreclosure? Raise your hand. Has faced home foreclosure? Raise your hand. Those banks got bailed out, but we the people got locked out. How many of you facing student loan debt? Can't you not argue education is a right? That's an investment. Do we need more drones or more scholarships? When we can brag about we spend more money on the military than the next 8 nations combined, is that a bragging point for a nation with a moral foundation? Where's the money? We decided to, after many protests around the whole world, to attack Iraq. We agreed it was the wrong target. Shrugged our shoulders. We said it was a bad day at the game. $2 trillion. Where's the money? Fast forward to Libya, a growing country with its share problems, just like we do. Got hung up in Syria. Folks we drove out their home and now coming here to look for some place to stay because we took them from their homes. You cannot separate this crisis of not enough money for education from too much money for war. We must make some choices. You mean several $1 trillion in offshore money to avoid paying taxes? And we know where the money is and who the tax avoiders are? And they are fundraisers for campaigns, running for president? Who is to root out this corruption? Is it Santa Claus or is it us? You must come alive. With the will to fight, to coalesce. We're having a Rainbow Push Trade Bureau a Rainbow Push meeting at Push Saturday morning at 50th and Drexel. I want as many students as possible to come by train, by bus, by car. Let's have a rally. Students from Northeastern, teachers, faculty, Chicago State, Governor State, it's time to rally. Time to register, time to march. I can't march, I'm preparing my syllabus. Your syllabus won't work if there's no class. I can't rally and march because I got to take my test. No one to give it. There comes a time to fight back. When we fight back, we win. We've never lost a battle we fought, never won a battle unless we fought. When we fight back, see who and we fight back, we win. Put a face on this pain. Privileges are coming top down, pain coming bottom up. HIV, medicine, seniors transportation, pays transportation, privileges, more tax subsidy. I urge you to get in the mood to fight. But one more thing, this issue of our own will to character. We've survived apart. Out of black, white, brown, little cubicles. We have a harder challenge to do than learning to survive apart. Lowercase animals have managed to survive. We must learn to live together, not just survive apart. We must learn to live together, not just survive apart. Dr. King would be proud to look at you today. Here you sit here, multiracial, multicultural. You look like the United Nations. Here you are today. Here you are today. Why must you learn to speak more than one language? Well, we must end being language arrogant. 2/3 of our hemisphere speak Spanish. English is a minority language in our hemisphere. English is a great language. Jesus didn't speak it, however, by the way. 10 Commandments were not written in it, by the way. 1/2 of human beings are Asian, 1/2 of them are Chinese. 1/8 African, 1/4 Nigerian. More folk in India than there are in the U.S. and Soviet republics combined. Most people in the world today are yellow, brown, black, non-Christian, poor, female, young, and don't speak English. So when the Trump wants to lock out the Muslims, there are more Muslims than there are Christians. There are more Muslims in the world than there are Americans. And so we must learn to share God and share one another. We are all God's children. What that means is I go for Q&A on this character question. How intermingled we are one with the other. Some time ago, Rodney King was beaten nearly to death on a highway in California. Rodney King had told his story, he would not have been believed. The camera was ILI. That wasn't enough. A white photographer named George Halliday filmed it. The camera didn't roll by itself. It was not a police camera, an independent photographer. He could have said, that black guy shouldn't be in our neighborhood. He could have said, the police couldn't be all wrong. He could have said, I'm not going to get involved in that. But some parents' lesson about ethics and humanity, some preacher's sermon, some priest's admonition. The hero is not Rodney King. Rodney King was the victim. The hero was the white photographer. Beyond color and culture, some call character. So much like the story of the Good Samaritan. Who is my neighbor? The question was asked. Jesus said a man was walking down the street attending to his business, and two thieves robbed him. He had done nothing. He was not the hero, he was the victim. While laying there bleeding and dying, he looked up and saw a man of his own religion coming down the street. The rabbi, the man of God, went to the other side and kept walking. He looked up and saw a man of his own ethnic kin, the Levite. The Bible says he walked across and kept walking as well. Another man from another culture, the Samaritan, a group with which there was antagonistic political relations, from another color, another culture, who served God differently. Picked him up. Good Samaritans, beyond color, beyond culture, some call character. After Rodney King had been beaten, they took the case to Simi Valley and the beaters were set free. When they were set free, there was a rebellion. Blacks and browns rebelled. A man named Reginald Denny came to the ghetto, lost. They snatched the door from his truck, began to beat him with a brick. 4 blacks who did not know him or each other saw it on live TV. They rushed to save him from those who would dare beat him because of racial fear and ignorance and pain and violence. They rushed him to the hospital where one of those black affirmative action doctors performed surgery and saved his life. Beyond color, beyond culture, some call character. With that character, we must register and vote. With that character, we must revote. We must fight for justice, fight for one another. It affects LGBT, it affects me. It affects me, it affects you. We live together as brothers and sisters and not die apart as fools. We must make a declaration. We will keep our schools open. They will fund, we'll mobilize students all across the state. We will fight back. We'll fight back. Save our schools, fight back. Save our future, fight back. More scholarships, fight back. Jobs and justice, fight back. A clean environment, fight back. Health care for all, fight back. Stop exploitation, fight back. Stand up and fight back.